Hello everybody, welcome to today's My Games Recruitment Show, where as you can see, we're going to be talking about how you can scale a recruitment company from scratch to as big as you like. Now, Mike, this is something that, we base everything off really, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, I think there are some people out there that don't want to scale a business. They're happy the way their business is and they just want to keep it small, and that's fine. But I'm guessing you're not watching this show. That's why would you bother? Unless we're so fabulous on live TV that this is what you actually want. But yes, right. That this is all about scalability. I have done it twice, and like I put in a post this morning, quite frankly, if I can do it, anybody can. So.
Okay, Mike. So I know we're going to go into the sort of pillars of scalability in a second, but before we do that, can we just all work from the same page? What exactly do you mean when you say scalable?
Well, there are 3 levels of scalability, right? So just think about this. Be interested to see what level you're at or what level you'd like to achieve. Level 1 is you break the connection between how hard you work and how much you earn. So when you're a very small business, the harder you work, the more money you make. If you don't work as much, you don't make as much money. The first level of scalability is you break that link. So you earn money without working, basically. The next level, and by the way, for me, that's a particularly good one, I have to say. I like that one, yeah. The next level is where there's no part of your business, none of these 7 pillars that I'm going to show you now, depends upon the skills, the knowledge, or the network of a named individual. Anybody in your business that if they left, that particular thing that they do would stop working or wouldn't work as well, then you're not scalable. It's a great
thing. Does
thing.
that include you as the business owner?
Definitely includes you. Yes, definitely. The only difference is that the central pillar, which we'll look at in a second, which is about control, really, direction and control, is you. But that probably wouldn't be too much of a problem to begin with. And then the third level is you could be off for 6 months and it really wouldn't make a lot of difference, really. You are genuinely superfluous to requirements. You've got a management team that runs it. You've got data that tells you what the heck's going on. It's absolutely fine. So it took me 7 years to achieve that in my first business, and actually pretty much from the get-go in the second one, but that's a different story. But yes, that's what it's about. It's about creating a level that you would like, whether you want to be happy just breaking the link, whether you want to be happy where you've got a safe business, so if people leave, no big deal, or whether you want to go the whole hog and grow this mini Michael Page. It's up to you entirely.
Okay, all right, that seems fair enough to me. So I know you've mentioned 7 pillars, so shall we get started with that pillar number 1?
Yeah, we will actually. Right, so here's the thing. All of these 7 pillars, I guarantee you've got in your business. I guarantee it. That's not the question. The question is how well defined and how fit for purpose are they? That's the point. So you've got all this stuff, right? Now, this one is a personal favorite of mine because very few companies that I deal with, some of them quite a size, multi-million-pound businesses, don't have this nailed. So let's start at the beginning very quickly and go through these. Got a lot to cover today. You should have a very clear idea what your business is supposed to do for you. It's your business, so what the heck is it supposed to do? What a lifestyle, what freedom, and what wealth do you want your business to deliver for you? When you have that, you can then design a business which will deliver it. When you have that, you can then build a strategy which will create that business for you. And when you've done that, you can begin to build plans that you can execute. And of course, you can manage those plans. All of that is taken care of in here. It's an overkill, you might say. I'm a one-man band, hey, a solopreneur. That's not for me, or I'm a micro business, there's 2 or 3 of us. Yeah, it just means there's not quite as much of it as if you're a 20 million pound business or a 50 million pound business. It's you've got to have it there. It's just not as chunky if you're small.
Right, but I suppose as well, as you grow, it's easier to have those kind of things in place from the get-go, and your company grows around them than rather than kind of retroactively sort of fitting them around.
That applies to all of the pillars, all of them. If you've got them in place, and like I said, you've got something. So all of you watching this are in a, it's not disastrous or anything. Then it's easier to evolve and create what you need before you need it. So you build a business that you're going to grow into rather than constantly wearing a pair of trousers that are too small for you. Go out and buy bigger trousers and then grow into them. And God knows I've got enough experience of that over the years. But that's what you need to do. So that's the point of being in touch with all of these 7 pillars. You know what you've got. You know what you're going to need. You can begin to build it and grow into it. Much easier ride when you grow. 100%.
When it comes to the pillars, I feel like this is a question as we're going to go through. Obviously, there are 7. Is there an order to these? Have we done this first as strategy because that's the first thing that you should do before you create the other 6?
Yes. You can do this. If you're watching this and you're working for somebody else but thinking of setting up, you can do this now. You can do it now. You can plan out exactly what you want the next thing your business to do for you. And then later you do the next thing and the next thing. You know, as you achieve one milestone, then you plan the next milestone. You can do it now. It's absolutely no problems. You can put a strategy together. By the way, strategy is not difficult. If anybody wants a strategy in 7 bullet points, let me know and I'll send it to you. Honestly, it's not that difficult. It's the planning and the execution, the management of that's the big deal. But this is absolutely crucial, which is why it's central to everything that we do. Let me put it this way. When I take on private clients, there's 2 sorts of private clients. I won't bore you with them, but one of them, basically, we're going to implement a plan. We do this first. It's a half-a-day planning strategy, because when I've got this and I build the whole plan, when we have that, man, it just feels so good. You've got that clarity and confidence. Well, you don't need me to do that. You can do it yourself, but you need it. And this is the central pillar.
And just one final question before we start moving on. If anybody else has any questions, by the way, pop them in the comments and I'll bring them up with Mike. Is this, some people say like it's a year plan, it's a 3-year plan, it's a 10-year plan. What kind of length of planning are we talking about?
It's not about time, it's a milestone plan. So if you're starting up, you might say, well, okay, I'm not going to earn anything. So I just want to earn 50 grand in my first year, or whatever it is that you're going to put together. Whatever, you know the lifestyle you eventually want, and that's driven by money, right? But what do you want next? So it's a milestone thing. I think if you're a smaller business particularly and you put time on it, you can't control that because you get pulled into the operational, the day-to-day way too much. So I mean, you can put estimated times on. That's fine to do that, but don't beat yourself up if you don't hit them. It's the target that you want, and that's crucial.
Okay, Mike. So I think now it's time for us to go on to the second pillar.
Okay, so second pillar is a virtual delivery and fulfillment team. Now, obviously, you've all got delivery. That's the finding and qualifying of candidates or contractors or temps or whatever. And you've got the fulfillment where you put the bum in the seat to actually make the placement. If you want a scalable business, I think you probably have to go down the virtual route. We've had people on here before talking about offshoring and whatever, and that's fine, but it can be onshore. But you build a team, and by the way, this can include your suppliers. You can get suppliers involved in this. You're building a virtual team, and its main focus is to be uber efficient at putting a bum on a seat. So all the metrics that you put in these, and I'm going to talk about what's in these pillars because people ask me, well, what's in there? What is it? I'll tell you that in a second, actually. But when you look at this, I'm going to just quickly go through the levels with you. If we've got a little bit of time, Kirsty, very quickly.
We do.
Right, so starting at the bottom and working up, level 1 resources are finders. So they find qualified candidates or ones that look
all the job boards, go through LinkedIn, find a
network, your database if you have one. Level 2 are qualifiers, and these are functions. So you can have one person do both of these, but these are functions. Level 2 are qualifiers. Okay, well, level 1 you can offshore very easily to India or the Philippines or Macedonia or somewhere. Right, no problem with that at all. You just train them, they'll find people for you. Level 2 qualifiers, got to pick the phone up, so you have to think about where that's going to be done. Level 3 are consultants, they're placers really. So they've got a qualified list from the qualifiers, and what they're going to do then is decide on the short list. Obviously brief the candidates. I'm not going to tell you how to do recruitment, you know all of that really, and then place that person. The next level on top of that is a senior consultant or an account manager, and they're looking after the client when there's no work. That's the best way I can describe it. So how do they look after that client when there are no vacancies? What do they do about relationship building to position themselves as first choice? We call it Apex Client Care. We've talked about it before on this show. And then above that, you've got someone who basically brings in the business, which we're going to talk about in a second or two. So that's a virtual team. Now you can outsource bits of that, and you can use bits of software for bits of it as well. But the idea is 360 is someone does it all. very dangerous, not safe, hard to scale when you can't hire these people because they're not really there or they're difficult to recruit. And if they go, because you've got to build a business which is going to deliver what you want from it, but is safe. And 360s are not safe because if they go, they're going to take a chunk of your revenue with them. And we all know that. So you build a virtual business, which is factory model, which is what that is. And you've got division of labor, people doing different jobs, being very good at it. And then if they go, well, you lose a function, you don't lose a revenue stream. So that's a very important part of scalability. One last thing before I move on from this. What we want to do is build a business that delivers exceptional results with average people. Why do we want to do that? Well, because the majority of people are average. They have to be. It's a standard distribution curve. You all know that. We've all seen it a million times when we were at school and since then. So obviously you've got some really, really good people at the top, some really, really bad people at the bottom, but the vast majority are average. Too many people base their business strategy on having exceptional people. Well, good luck with that, because it's really hard. And most of the exceptional people are in fact running their own businesses. Not all, but a lot of them. So you need to build a business which gives you exceptional results, ticks your finance boxes, gives you the freedom that you're looking for, and so on, with average people. And that's what this is about. That is what it's about.
Okay. And now, I am very aware, guys, that was a very speedy thing and we're going through this very quickly. And that is because we planned this as a very big overview, but then a lot of people registered interest. So we are going to run a webinar on this, aren't we, Mike? Where we can go into more detail on
what happened was, the idea was a half-an-hour show where we just, hey, look, guys, this is it. But I had so much. This is the third biggest show that we've run already. And I've had messages from people, are you going to cover this? What's in it? Not very many, but we don't get any normally. So obviously there's a little bit of interest in this. And we knew we couldn't go to the depth that you wanted. So we've got a 90-minute webinar. It's free, but we've got a 90-minute webinar where we're going to go to the next level of all of these. Going to show you what it looks like. Going to show you the project plans that you need to implement in each one of them. Very detailed, 90 minutes. So we'll tell you how to get that later. But essentially, if you're watching this live, then, and we know, obviously we know that you're watching, so we're going to email you. If you're watching a recording of this, then you have to tell us that you want to come. So we'll talk about that later.
And also, consider this as a positioning before the webinar. So it gives you a really good base to go off. Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that, Mike. So, Mike, let's move on to the second, the third of the pillars. Sorry.
Keep up with the program, Kirst.
Sorry. It's a Thursday.
You should have had caffeine like I have. I've had caffeine before this show.
You don't want to see me on caffeine. You don't want to see me on caffeine. Nobody needs that.
Anyway, look, I'm a professional. Let's go with this. Right. Okay, here we go. Now, okay, so we all hire people. Of course we do. We might use direct directs. We might use our network, whatever. That's really not scalable, partly because the success of that normally depends upon the knowledge, experience, or knowledge, skills, or talent. Network, Michael, of the people running, and that's not really what you want. So you build a talent acquisition and retention system, pillar in your business, which does that. And you don't have to use rec directs if you don't want to. If there are any rec directs watching this now, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, guys, use you. But really what we're looking for is something which has got a strong EVP, which has got a mechanism to leverage that EVP to get people to come to you and to push away the people that you don't want. We're defined by the people that we push away from us, because that leaves a gap for the people that really we would like to work with us and can work with us to come closer. And that's a big deal. We're going to look at that in a great deal of depth in the webinar, and we've done a couple of shows on it.
We have. And just for those of you who haven't heard, the acronym EVP means Employee Value Proposition, which is what we're talking about on that.
Oh, come on.
And so
they live and breathe EVPs. Come on.
I know, but you never know, Mike. I like to just throw these out there. Now with this, Mike, is this linked to number 2? If you're having virtual team members, do you still have to have an attractive EVP for them as well?
Yeah, you do. It's funny you should say that, really, because obviously, apart from the strategy and planning and management, which you do, right, other people do the rest of them. Now, if you're hiring people, which you should do, build an onshore team, increasingly people aren't, the whole team is virtual, which is absolutely fine. But really, it's nice to have some permanent people in your team. They don't have to sit with you, but they're there. You're going to need an EVP, and then you're going to need the processes to make sure that the EVP, the promises that you've made in that EVP, you're going to keep, because that's the retention part. You've got great EVP but don't deliver, guess what? People are going to go.
Okay.
Right? So you need those, but also there's an onboarding facility in it. Well, you're going to need that for virtual people. If they're in India, they've still got to be onboarded. You still have to manage them. I believe you still have to treat them like permanent staff. And we had Ketan Gajar on a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And he said the same, treat them like your permies, really. So I think having a talent acquisition and retention pillar, even if you intend to be 100% virtual, I think it's still necessary.
Okay, fantastic. So, Mike, we have had a question from Francis. He asked, are there any books to read that you might suggest on this topic? Now, this was posted just after we finished virtual delivery. So I'm not sure whether this is about having a scalable business in general or virtual delivery. So could you give an answer to both, I guess?
Yeah, not really. It's not very popular. I think it seems to be most of the recruitment world is locked in a very transactional tyranny of the targets thing. And that this more strategic approach isn't very common at all. Obviously, I would say this, but the stuff that we've written, there's a lot of it out there. If you join our free Recruitment Pioneers Vault, there's a load of stuff in there. It's free. Just register. You can have that. So you might like to look in there, Francis. I'll get Kirsty to send you a link to that later. There's nothing nasty. We don't upsell or anything. You just go in there, look at the stuff. And that's where most of the content around this is, and this show, of course. I would say that, wouldn't I? But it's true.
I was going to say, there's quite a lot on the show. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see the archive of all the other shows. So that might be an idea. So hopefully that answered your question, Francis. If there are any other questions, guys, keep them coming. Mike, it's a very quick show today, but let's go to the next pillar.
Right now, this is even too big to do in this show. So next week's My Game show, 12:30, same time, same channel. We're going to spend the whole show on that. But what I would say is this, because it took me years to realize that what I thought was business development was not what a lot of other people thought was business development. And it turns out that most recruiters, when they talk about BD, it's actually tactical BD, which is like, here's a job, or I've got this great candidate, let me spec him in. I know you wouldn't use those words, right? But and that's fine. That's tactical BD. It's useful to have that in your business. But if that's all you have, you're on this big kind of Ferris wheel that you've got to keep going round and round and round. Strategic business development is completely different, and you need both. So we're going to have the whole show on that next time round, because I think it's so important.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that, Mike. So without further ado, let's go on to pillar number 5 then.
Well, yeah, interestingly, I ran a seminar before COVID for a group of account managers from a very large agency, and it was all about making them better account managers, which is fine. Whole day, actually. The beginning of it, I went round and said, well, okay, well, what do you do with your clients, and what's account management to you? I'm paraphrasing now, but pretty much what they all said was getting requirements out of people. I mean, that was pretty much it, really. And I knew that was going to be a hard day, which it was. But Apex Client Care, as the name suggests, is designed to make you the first choice supplier. Because when you're the first choice supplier, everything changes. If it's 50-50 and you're another agency, you get it. You get the heads up, even if there's a preferred supplier agreement in place and you've got to get the requirements at the same time, got a relationship with the hiring manager, you get it. You get the nod. You can be still getting vacancies for non-PSL clients. Even if the vacancies drop, you get them first, so you're okay. It's what kept us through the recession of the early 90s, actually.
I was going to say, I didn't want to mention the R word, but it is one of those things. Apex Client Care is one of those things that can make you recession proof, because if you're first choice, then the people lower down the list don't get any work, but you always get that work to keep you going.
It's true. Now, obviously, there's some conditions to that. If you've only got one client and then hiring, doesn't matter how good your client care is, essentially that's not going to work. But combined with a fairly wide client estate, you stick an Apex Client Care a pillar on top of that, and your revenue will go up. That's the point. It does two things. It maxes out revenues and it keeps the competition at bay, which helps you max out revenues, I suppose. Anyway, so but just on that, what you've got is you've got things in there like a deployment plan, say, for example, a D plan. So when one of your people or you or whoever wins a new client, okay, if it's only a tiny little client, well, fine. But you have to assume that there are other hiring managers and perhaps even other decision makers there. So a deployment plan systematically takes you from being just trading with one little bit of it to trade in with as much as you possibly can. We have in the same pillar, we have lapsed client CPR. So when a client is lapsed, and we've all got lapsed clients, how do you bring it back to life again? So we have a campaign around that. And then we have right at the center of it, a care regime. So how do you make sure that even those clients that don't hire very often come to you first? Well, it's a care regime. 3 levels. We talked about it before on the show. 3 levels, and it will keep you in prime position. You don't want to sell to anybody. You want people to buy from you, and that really is what an Apex client care system actually does. So.
Okay, fantastic. We have had a comment. I'm guessing this is from Paul, that he was shocked that you were even working in the 90s, Mike, because you're so youthful. The youthful visage is so tricky to everybody.
I was a YTS kid, you know. I was still at school and running my own recruitment firm. That was pretty much it.
Not accurate.
Appreciate that.
I can definitely say not accurate there. Okay, so Mike, let's move on to the 6th pillar.
Okay, now we've had a whole show on this as well, but marketing, there's a lot of bunkum talked about marketing really, and people want you to spend money. I heard the other day how much somebody pays to have, I think it's 3 posts a week written, and their average, it was enormous.
How many figures? You don't need to give me the number, but we're talking like 4 figures.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, we are talking 4 figures. It's like, what? How much? You are joking. Well, anyway, right. So most marketing is, the best marketing is mostly free, providing you've got certain talents and a bit of time, really. So the 4 C's, and we'll dig in these obviously in a lot more detail in the webinar. Content, got to have really good content, compelling content that passes the so what test. Otherwise, it's just noise, really.
LinkedIn Live.
You've got to have collateral, which if you understand what your key messages are, and I'm going to explain that as well in a lot more detail because they're really important. As a business scales, what happens is it loses its shape. And what that means is people start to do your version of recruitment in their own little way.
It gets diluted.
It becomes diluted and diffused. And part of it is key messages, and part of it is productization. So if they're all selling a fixed product, then they can't stray too far away from that. And if there's key messages, when people ask a common question and this is a common answer, then again, it keeps your business in shape as it grows. Because again, if you don't do that, your profitability will suffer, your service levels with your client will suffer, and also your staff motivation will suffer. So you need the business to keep its shape as it grows. Part of that is key messages, and that fits under collateral. Third thing is communication, and that really is the mechanisms that you use to get your content and your collateral to your prospective clients and your current clients. So we call them people of interest because it covers everything there. So that's really important. And the last thing is campaigns. How do you persuade somebody out there, contractor, prospect, client, whatever, candidate, to do what you want them to do? It's a campaign, an AIDA campaign. So they all fit under marketing, centralized function. You can outsource bits of it if you want. I prefer it to be done in-house, but you know, your choice. If you're small, you're going to have to outsource that. Massively powerful. And what that will do is help you. I'm pointing to the screen, which you can't see. It will help you, put it back up, Kirst. It will help you on your Apex client care here. It will help you on your strategic and business tactical BD, and it will help you on your client acquisition. So it helps with all of those 3. It's a very, very powerful pillar that you need in your business.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Mike, as we have the pillars up, why don't we move on to the 7th and final pillar?
Right. Okay. So this is support services. So my view on support services is outsource them. So it's HR, IT, finance, and banking. I don't know, anything.
Those kind of services, basically.
Anything that around the governance and the running of your business. Outsource what you can. Now, interesting thing here. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I think this is quite common. Imagine a circle, and you're in the circle, and then there's a circle outside of that, and inside that circle is all your staff. The people around you, those inner circle, are proactive believers in what you're doing and have got a stake in it. Not necessarily a financial stake, in fact, not a financial stake, but they want you to be successful. It's your job to fill that circle. And so having an accountant who's proactive and almost like an FD who comes up with ideas and thoughts and challenges you, yes. And when you're small, it doesn't matter. But as you scale, it so does matter. Having a HR person that not only is going to sort out any HR problems that you've got, but also will come to you with suggestions and ideas to move things forward in whatever area that they are expertise in. Having an IT person that's not just going to fix a problem when your computer doesn't work. They're making suggestions as to how you can improve your technical estate, or new technology that's coming along, or whatever. You need to populate that inner circle. It's a key element of scalability. Oh, and also you need business coach in there. Just put that out there. Just mention that there. Yes.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway, la-di-da. But so support services, we don't do anything with that, except we will introduce you to people that we believe that can do that, and we don't make any money. Unlike some of our naughty competitors who take a little cutback, we don't. We introduce people because we think they're doing a good job, right? So there you have it. You want to pop that back up for a second, Kirst, and then
there we go.
Right. So those 7 pillars, all scalable businesses, not just recruitment, have those pillars. My advice to you is to develop the pillar of the size that you want it to be next. Don't wait until that pair of trousers is bursting at the seams before you go and get a new pair. Buy a pair which is bigger than you need. Build something which is sufficient to give you the next milestone that you set in your pillar number 1 in your strategy. Because if you do that, your service levels will remain high, your staff will remain happy, your profitability won't take a hideous dip, which it often does, become a yo-yo company, or what do they call it, a scissor company?
Yeah, scissor company.
Turnover and profit. Yeah, no, you don't want to be that. And so have those in, and you will grow a scalable business to the size that you want, whether you're level 1, 2, or 3. It will do that for you. It's done it for me twice. And as I said, there's nothing special about me, and I'm not being overly, what's the word when you say things that aren't true about yourself?
Tooting your own horn.
Yeah, well, I'm not that. It's the opposite.
Yeah,
right?
the opposite.
So I'm just telling you, anyone can do it. You just got to follow the path, and you find. So come on the webinar and find out what's in all of that.
Yes. So, Mike, let's tell people how they can get in the webinar. As we mentioned, it's going to be an hour and a half long. We're running it in March, I believe.
Yeah, first or second week in March. Can't remember now.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching this, Mike, and they want to attend, what should they do?
Well, if you press the attend button to be here, don't do anything, because we're just going to send you an email. And if you haven't had it, I'll check your junk or your clutter, because it might be in there, right? So that'll be in there in the same email. No, not the same email address that we informed you of this in the first place. If you're watching a recording of this, or you happened across it and you didn't press the attend button, just put a 3. Oh yeah, you can just email the subject line webinar to me at mike@flair.uk, and I'll send you the link. You can read then and decide whether you want to come on, or if you're watching it now and you want to make absolutely certain you come, just stick a 3 in the comments and we'll make sure we'll put you on the list for that. So that's okay. Easy peasy. Sure. It's going to be groovy.
Okay, yeah. Mike. So as always, I like this show to be as practical as possible. We've done very high level today, and we've sort of explained why we're going to do that. So in a second, I'm going to come to you and ask what people should do now if they want a scalable business. What's the first thing they should do? But before then, Mike, let's talk about what we're going to have on the show next week. We have already briefly mentioned it, but I believe we are doing tactical and strategic BD.
Yeah. I'm going to explain the difference between the two, because I'm not sure that's clear in people's minds. And then I'm going to explain why you need both and give you some practical tips you can make both better, more effective. So yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Probably very important with the market that we could be moving into the later part of this year, I would think.
I think so, if the news is anything to go off. So, Mike, as always, people are watching this, they think, how exactly am I supposed to get started, Mike? What's the first thing, blank piece of paper, what's the first thing I write down?
Okay. I've said this before on this show about like 10 times when people ask me, but I'm saying it again because it is so important. You know, a cliche is no view's truth, isn't it? And this is no view's truth. Write down what lifestyle is a combination of money and free time, disposable income, free time. Write down what you want next. So not the end game, but the next stage you want to get to. Freedom means when you go to work, you have the freedom to do what you want to do, the choice to do this, that, or the other. Write down what you think you'd like to be doing at the next milestone. And wealth, right? You just need to figure out what your magic number is. Talked about that before. And then figure out how much money you need to invest to get it, and then decide what you can afford in the next milestone to invest privately to do that. Once you've written that, everything else falls from it. And when I do this with my clients, my private clients, it's just so easy to build the rest of the plan and the strategy and all the rest of it, because we have that in place. So please do that.
Okay, fantastic. So Mike, it's come to that time again. We're hitting, but I love it when we hit bang on time. So I would first like to say thank you to everybody who's watched today. I know there's been a fair amount of you today. And thank you to everybody who's put any comments in. We so love to get them. And I would like to thank you today, Mike, because this has been a big old show today.
Very few people thank me for anything. So, yeah. Okay.
When are you revising the will?
Modest. That was the word I was scrabbling for. Either not being overly modest. Yeah, doesn't sit well with me, does it? That word.
Not really. Okay, so thank you to everybody for watching, and we will see you next week when we're talking about BD.
I'm looking like Bob Ross. Look, Bob Ross, this is me.